essere con noi, benvenuto.
Grazie. I don't think I've ever been introduced following such a beautiful rendition of our national anthem. So thank you, Ms. Melchiori, for that inspiring performance, and thank you, Eleonora, for the introduction. And buongiorno a tutti. I'm delighted to be able to join such a distinguished group of people here at the Festival Internazionale della Geopolitica Europea. I want to thank Carlo Mazzanti and everyone involved in the festival for inviting me to be here, including Mayor Socia of Jeslo. And I commend you for all the hard work that has gone into making the event a success. Of course, we at the U.S. Consul General in Milan have had the good fortune to cooperate with Carlo on other projects in the past, so we were certain that the conference would be a good one. So, geopolitics. It's one of those terms that's grown to encompass a whole range of theories and practices related to international relations. But one consistent element, and an element of primary importance to the United States, is the significance of international cooperation and alliances. And for the United States, the transatlantic relationship, as it is expressed through our NATO alliance and through US and European economic integration, is the foundation of the peace and economic prosperity we have enjoyed in the post-World War II era. Consider this point. The United States and Europe share the most globally integrated economic partnership in existence. It accounts for nearly $1.3 trillion a year in goods and services trade and $5.6 trillion in mutual investment. It sustains 15 million jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. It's a lot of jobs. So our alliances and our economic integration are not something we take for granted. They are the United States' greatest strategic asset. They enable us to present a common front, produce a unified vision, and pool our strength to promote high standards, establish effective international rules, and hold countries that break those rules to account. To this end, we have begun to reinvest in our alliances with the EU, NATO, and other allies and partners around the world, like Australia, Japan, India, and the Republic of Korea. We are working with them to share responsibilities equitably and encouraging them to invest in their own comparative advantages against shared current and future threats. After all, we face an array of severe global problems, and it falls to us, to this generation, to rise to the challenge. We are fighting our way through a pandemic and related economic downturn. We are confronting a climate crisis that demands an ambitious and coordinated international response. And we must deal with continued threats to our physical and cybersecurity. Tackling these issues is a monumental task, which is why we need our friends and allies, and why the new administration has set out to lead not by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. And our response to COVID is one of those examples. We've lived with this pandemic now for more than a year. We've supported each other locally and globally. In Italy, the United States has provided nearly $60 million to support the COVID response, donating protective equipment for doctors and nurses, ventilators and ICU beds for hospitals, helping set up emergency field hospital facilities, and providing millions of dollars in computer equipment to enhance distance learning for students. On top of this, U.S. companies contributed another $50 million in assistance to it. The virus doesn't recognize borders, so our recovery depends on our partnership. And now, as we see the possibilities brought by vaccines, the United States is expanding its support. Our early investment in vaccine research and development has brought multiple vaccines to the world market. The United States pledged $4 billion to support COVAX, the worldwide initiative to support vaccination around the globe. Last week, President Biden announced his intent to share 60 million AstraZeneca doses once the vaccine is approved by the U.S. government. And just this past Wednesday, the Biden-Harris administration announced its support for the waiver of intellectual property protections related to COVID-19 vaccines in an effort to get as many vaccines to as many people as quickly as possible. The administration believes strongly in intellectual property protections, but it also recognizes that the extraordinary circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic call for extraordinary measures. Yet recovering from the virus is more than just vaccines. We must work together to rebuild and grow our economies. The US and Italy's economies are linked. Two-way trade between the US and Italy includes goods and services in 2019, valued at over $103 billion. The United States remains a vital market for Italian goods. We are Italy's third largest destination for exports, with nearly 50 billion in Italian goods exported to the US market in 2020. Because of the strength of this economic relationship, moving forward in reviving our respective economies requires working in tandem, and not just bilaterally, but in coordination with the EU. Let me change direction here for a bit. As pressing as the pandemic and its economic fallout are, looming for us is a climate crisis that, without putting too fine of a point on it, is on a whole different scale. As most of you undoubtedly know, we've rejoined the Paris Agreement, and we've signaled our commitment to advancing action at home and around the world to reach net zero emissions globally by mid-century, and to keep the limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius average temperature increase within reach. This is a target that scientists have told us over and over that if we don't reach it, we'll have passed the point of no return. 2 weeks ago, President Biden brought together leaders from around the world to discuss the climate emergency. The summit was a key milestone on the road to the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, which will take place this November in Glasgow, Scotland. The steps countries take this year to set the world up for success will make all the difference. To keep the vital goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius within reach, we need to get on the right path right now. At the Earth Day Summit, the President announced a new emission target for the United States, a 52% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. We also welcomed the ambitious targets announced by Japan to cut emissions to 50% below the 2013 levels, almost doubling their current target. By Canada, reducing emissions by 45% below the 2005 levels. These are welcome steps, and they show that together we have a chance to mitigate the threat the crisis poses. We also have a chance to reshape the climate emergency into an opportunity to build a better and stronger future than our past. As I noted before, we often talk of the threat climate change poses, but we need to shift our thinking to talk about the opportunity that addressing climate change provides. We should think of the climate emergency as an opportunity for economic growth and development. An opportunity, as President Biden said, to create millions of jobs around the world. Jobs that bring better quality of life and greater dignity to the people performing those jobs in every nation. Can we do it? I think we can. The United States and Italy are two countries that have long histories of innovation in the fields of science and technology. The same skills and talents that brought us everything from the electrochemical battery to the first human-controlled drone flight on Mars. These are the skills and talents that will launch our green industrial revolution. Taking on this challenge will require us to mobilize financing at an unprecedented scale. Already we've seen the private sector recognize the opportunity. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been invested worldwide every year in projects that will enable us to meet our net zero emission goals. But the private sector can't meet these challenges alone. Governments have a critical role to play in both passing regulations and laws that promote sustainability and net zero carbon emissions, and in choosing how to spend and invest public funds. Finally, I want to mention that as we look at our challenges through the lens of geopolitics, we must foster international cooperation on cyberspace security issues. We are already cooperating with partners in Europe and around the world to promote responsible state behavior in cyberspace. We've seen the damage malicious cyber activity can do. If we want to contain these threats, we must act together with a view toward promoting an open, interoperable, reliable, and secure internet. I know cybersecurity is the topic of this conference, and I am sure some of the other issues I've raised will come up during the conference. There is a tremendous amount of expertise gathered here. It's reassuring that we're having these important conversations and laying a foundation for the future action. These discussions and the shared values that inform them are at the heart of the transatlantic relationship. They are what have enabled it to endure so powerfully for so long. So thank you for giving me the chance to join this conversation. and for considering how we can work together in unity and with vision to ensure our future is a just and prosperous one. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Mr. Needham, grazie per l'importante contributo, ci ha dato molti spunti di riflessione.